Hey everyone, welcome to Wildlife Inspired. I'm your host, Scott Keys, and in today's video, we're going to talk about photography etiquette. Is there a right way to act in public? We'll explore it right after this. And in today's Quick Thoughts video, I just wanted to talk a little bit about shooting in groups. And is there a right way to act and a wrong way to act? Some do's and don'ts. As a backstory, I put this out on Instagram and I asked for some feedback and just basically give me a rule. And I got some very common themes in this, and we'll share those in this video. One other thing came up. Somebody made the comment that I don't get to make the rules for other people. And I don't know if that was tongue in cheek or if it was serious, but I want to talk about that real quick. While certainly nobody makes rules for others to live by, in the society we're in, I will tell you sometimes I feel like it's just changed over my lifetime. And I may be in a different decade than other people, but in the old days, there seemed to be more social conformity. There seemed to be like rules of the game that you kind of just played by when you were around other people. And nowadays, I'm not sure that it's the same way. So while I don't get to make rules for other people, I do think there are some guidelines that help us all get along a little bit better. And I have this idea about we live in a society.
You know, we're living in a society. We're supposed to
That's
act
right.
in a civilized
We
way.
still live in a society where we need to be around other people. So I'm going to give you some of the things that were shared with me. I'll give you some do's and don'ts when it comes to photographing around other people. But I do wanted to explore this topic. If you've got some ideas down in the comments, have you noticed a change in society? And do you see some of those things carry over from society into photography? Let me give you a good idea of what is not a rule, but it's probably not the right thing to do. So I'm out in public a lot, and let's say I'm shopping for groceries and somebody's over here shopping and they're on their cell phone. And it's not a quiet conversation. This is loud on the speaker. And honestly, if I'm trying to buy some beans in the supermarket aisle, I don't need to hear about Uncle John's hip problems for 20 minutes at full volume. I just don't need to, and I don't think other people want to hear it either. To me, well, no, it's not a rule or a law. You probably shouldn't use speakerphones out in public. That's my opinion. This is an opinion piece. Do you agree with that? So let's start there. Do you agree that there are some things in society that are probably just not, they're just not respectful of other people? Let's carry that forward into photography. Have you seen this occur when photographing in groups? And I'm going to give you a quick list of here of some of the things I've seen and some do's and don'ts. So let's just start with the positive. Let's start with the do's, and a lot of this just revolves around respect. There's a golden rule, and for people of my generation or older, you probably know this rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, or some version of that. Basically, just treat people how you would like to be treated. So when I go out in public, one of the things that I would encourage everyone to do, one of the do's of this video, is find your own space. Now, there's a couple of themes in here that are going to involve space and distance. And the first of these is just, kind of create your own area. You don't need to be right next to somebody else. Often they will find that as an intrusion. And along those lines, respect people's personal space. So those two concepts, I'm going to put them as two rules. Find your own space, but also at the same time respect others' personal space. And that goes with distance, but also volume. Now, I didn't put this as a do right away, but I think there's a concept we could add in here around just noise. Be quiet, be cautious. We, especially for wildlife photographers, we're in an environment where sound can be sensitive and it can disturb other things around us. We'll get to that in a minute. But this first idea, these first two do's, find your own space and respect other people's personal space, I think are really important. The next one also involves this idea of space and distance, and that's respect the line. Now, this is a little bit more arbitrary, but you have seen this, I'm sure, if you've been in a group. You're out and there are people there, and they have established a line of demarcation. There's this imaginary fence that's there, and nobody's allowed to cross it. Now, this one could be tricky for some people, because for some people, they may feel their individual right to go wherever they want supersedes somebody's artificially imposed boundary. If my boundary is 50 feet from a subject and their boundary is 100, I'm 100 feet away. I think when we're in social situations, in group situations, I hate to say this, I think we default to the group establishment. And I know that's tricky for some people. I've got some nonconformists out there, and maybe I'm just raised a little bit more to conform to society's will. But if somebody's formed a line, my belief is you respect the line. You kind of hold that area. I'll tell you a quick story. I had it shared with me, some pictures and some videos. There was a line of people photographing an owl, and somebody took it upon themselves to just go. They just started crawling up to the owl. So the group might be 100 feet away, and this person thought, that's too far for me, I'm gonna go closer. So they did. And this isn't about the effect on the owl. So not the stress or pressure that was put on it. It was just about, is it the right thing to do? Like, is it the right thing to buck the trend or buck the community or buck the group and do what you wanna do because you have the right to do it? I have this expression, I use it quite often with people. Just because you have the right to do something doesn't make it the right thing to do, especially in social situations. So, curious about your thoughts on that. You've seen the line. Do you have to respect the line if you're out in public? Curious about that one. The last one I had, and this is interesting, this came from Instagram. Somebody sent me a note and they said, one of my rules is to read the room. And I had that written down on my notes for this video, read the room. And what does that mean? It just means when you arrive to a situation, look at the body cues, look at the language of the person. If they're not making eye contact and they're quiet, give them more distance. If they're welcoming and friendly and social and you feel like engaging with them, it's probably appropriate to do so, but please read the room because not everybody takes this the same way. For certain people, this is a social hobby where they get to talk to people, they have a peer group of like-minded individuals, and this is very much a social situation. For others, they may be documenting, they may actually be working, or they just might be really serious and focused on what they want. And there might be a desire for them to connect to the nature and to the subject or to the photograph or the image more so than the other people that are there. So as a guideline, I think it's very safe to say some of these do's, the last one is just going to be read the room. Now the don'ts on this list could be a little more fun and might be a little bit more controversial, but I'm going to add two here that I'm going to tell you these are almost laws. These are really strict rules for most people, more so than just a guideline. The first one is don't step in front of the lens. This is taboo. If you're a photographer, you never want to occupy space in front of somebody who's already been set up. I will tell you again, I don't get to make the rules, but a lot of people agree with me on this one. I'm sure you agree with that one as well. Never step in front of somebody's lens. Certainly don't ever set up your lens in front of somebody else's. The second rule, maybe a law. If I was writing the wildlife photography laws, this may be on there as well. In a group situation, never change the behavior of the subject. So whatever you do, whether it's the noise that you make, the distance, anything that distracts from that subject is impacting everybody else around, even if it's just one other person. So again, we use that example. If I push to get closer, there's a good chance the subject's behavior will change. They might turn their back, they might fly away, they might just move and be more concealed. And imagine you've been set up somewhere quietly, patiently waiting, and the subject's just starting to come out, and then a group of people come around and they're making noise and they're distracting and they're disturbing. Again, this isn't about the ethics or the treatment of the animal. It's just actually about the respect of the other people that are shooting. So my second rule, if not law, and what most people agreed with, never disrupt or change the subject's behavior. Now, the next three rules are somewhat related in that they all deal with your interaction with other people. And I'll share a couple of these. The first one is don't question. And what I mean by that is some people, they just don't want to hear a lot of questions from other people. So you may have maybe a beginning photographer and somebody else looks experienced, and you may ask things like, hey, what are you shooting at? What's this? What's that? What are your settings? Those are common questions out in the field. And I don't know that it's completely appropriate for all people. Somebody willing to share, absolutely, but other people, again, are just a little bit more private. So watch when you're questioning and asking. A lot of people just aren't there to converse and answer questions. Another one that I find a lot of people doing, and I've got another follow-up video on social media, this will certainly be mentioned, and that is to overshare or personalize, which means everything becomes about me. If there's a conversation, oh, here's what I did. Oh, you shot that, here's mine. And the classic example of this, and I know you've been there, is something gets mentioned and here comes the phone. And here comes the photos, and it's one after another, after another, after another. There's a time and place where that is appropriate. There's also a time and place where it might be distracting to somebody else who's trying to watch and trying to photograph, and now you've got their phone and you're sharing attention from them. So that idea about oversharing, over-personalizing your experiences with somebody else, caution that one. I think that's got to be on the list of don'ts. And the final don't for me, don't be the expert. Don't be the expert. This means somebody's shooting and you're guiding them, telling them what to do. Oh, your shutter speed's too high. Here's a good one. You should move over here. You'll get a better shot. Now, if somebody asks for help or is receptive to that, that's one thing. But I really think it's inappropriate for you to kind of force or suggest what other people should be doing, especially complete strangers. I will tell you this, and I hear this from a lot of, particularly from my female friends, is that they deal with this concept of mansplaining. Now, I, by the way, do not like that word because I think sometimes every time a male says anything, it turns into mansplaining, and maybe I'm a little sensitive to that sometimes as a male, but I will tell you it absolutely happens, and I hear it a lot from my female friends. So if you're viewing this, have you experienced that out in the field? Do you think there's a little bit of this expertise being shared, particularly when it's based off of somebody's assumptions of somebody else's skill levels? So don't be an expert. Don't tell people what they should do. Allow people to do their own thing. And if they have questions, they'll ask you. So I hope you enjoyed this really fast quick thoughts video today just around etiquette. And I've touched on this subject matter a few times in different videos, just around, what's the right thing to do in a group situation and maybe what you should try to avoid. Now, these are my opinions because this is an opinion piece. If you've got a different opinion, you can let me know down in the comments. What I'd really like to know is around this concept of the group creating a norm. Are you obligated to follow it? Or do your rights as an individual supersede the norms of the group? Think about that drawing the line. Are you obligated to follow that? That group has set something. Are you obligated to follow it because you are now part of that group? Or do your rights as an individual supersede that and I can do whatever I want? This is going to be an interesting comment section because I think we'll get a little bit on both sides, and certainly it's a gray area. So not everything is going to be black and white on this, but what's your thoughts on etiquette in general? Do you see the society changing if you're of a generation where you've seen this happen over time? Has it changed? And are the rights of the individual sometimes superseding the social norms or the group expectations? So let me know down in the comments. I will find this one very interesting to read. I read all of the comments, by the way, and I'm so glad you guys have participated in those comments and subscribed to the channel. And by the way, if you're not subscribed, I need you to hit the subscription button now. There's also a little bell for notifications. That'll let you know when I have a new video out. I'm glad you watched this one. And as always, I hope we can continue to find inspiration in wildlife together.